Hello, happy Friday, or whatever day you're watching this. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Mad. And today I'm going to be recommending you different books based on your favorite movie or TV show. I think there's a lot of these lists out here, but I don't watch a whole lot of fantasy TV, but I read a lot of fantasy books. Most of these are going to be like horror, but I do have a few fantasy in here as well. And yeah, let's get into it. If you love Jennifer's Body or The Craft, I haven't read The Craft, but I feel like these two go hand in hand, then you definitely need to read Goddess of Filth by V. Castro. This is a tiny little novella, and it's about a group of teens who are in the summer between high school and whatever comes next. For a lot of them it's college, some of them it's not, and they do this Ouija board seance type of situation, and one of them gets possessed with the Goddess of Filth. It's very much like a feminist good for her kind of story, and I loved it. I thought it was the perfect length. Definitely did not need it to be longer, and it's just one of my favorite kind of like feminist horror stories. A horror movie that I absolutely adored. It was so gory, so over the top, and is actually getting some awards, which it absolutely should be, is The Substance. It is this body horror commentary on the beauty industry and how it affects women, especially older women, and I have definitely read a few books that are like this. If you're just looking for kind of the beauty industry aspect of everything and want it to kind of take a fever dreamy really weird turn, then I would definitely recommend Rouge by Mona Awad. I actually like this better than Bunny, but that's kind of a hot take, not a popular opinion. But this is about a woman who goes back to where her mother lives. It's a coastal town, and she has to figure out what happened to her mom. And there's this weird cult aspect to it. I love this. I definitely want to reread this at some point. If you do want that body horror aspect, I think Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Wang does this super well. This is one of my favorite weird girl books of all time. I love this. This is just, it's so good. It's about a pianist who is just like kind of falling out of love with it. She was supposed to be taking care of her parents and now is working at Holistic, which is a beauty, very high-end kind of store, and things just get really weird and gross. It's just so good. This is like a 6 out of 5 star book for me. A book that I didn't think was quite as good, but definitely takes it up to like the gross goopy type of horror, is Youth Juice by, I think it's E.K. Sathu. This goopy is just like the only word that I can use to describe it. I think it's pretty short, and I guess I would recommend it, especially if you're looking for books that are kind of like adjacent to The Substance. If you really liked Saw, specifically Saw 1, where it's just a couple people in an enclosed room that are being tortured and they're very confused, then I would totally recommend Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy. This is about a man who gets trapped in a rest stop bathroom and tortured basically for a full night. It is just gory, campy, rompy horror, and it was just so much fun. I love Nat Cassidy's books. This one was definitely a little different from Marion Nestling's, but not in a bad way. I loved it. I don't know about you, but Arcane definitely took over our household for a while. I love the steampunk aspect to it. Obviously, the animation is incredible, and the relationships are so good. I have a couple recommendations for a couple different aspects of it. If you're looking for that family aspect and gangs and kind of like superhuman abilities, I would definitely recommend Jade City by Fonda Lee. This first one is extremely political, and it did take me a little bit to get into, but the rest of the series is focused more on the characters, and I was really into it. If you're looking for that steampunk aspect as well as the sapphic yearning and the occasional heist, then Foundry Side is incredible. I love this magic system. I recommend this book all the time because of the magic system. I just love it so much. And then this last one, I genuinely don't understand why it's not more popular. It's really confusing in the same way kind of like Gideon the Ninth is confusing. However, it's just so good and so devastating. If you are looking to be devastated as much as Arcane is devastating, then I can't recommend Metal from Heaven by August Clark enough. And this is just like all about lesbians. Men do not matter in this world. It is so good and again so devastating, and I am 99% sure that this is a standalone. It wrapped up at the end, so I think it's a standalone. If you, like me, love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, specifically for Buffy and Spike's very toxic relationship, but they just kind of got each other, I have one recommendation that doesn't feel like it quite hits there for me, but it's the closest thing that I can think of, and that's Immortal Dark by Tigges Girma. This is technically YA, but I think that it is too spicy for YA. There are a lot of like naked bathhouse scenes that lead me to believe that this should not be YA. It's also set in college, like they're not underage. And this is about Kidon, and she's trying to figure out what happened to her sister. And in order to attend this college and figure out what is happening to her sister, she has to live in a house that is left to her family with a vampire that was entrusted, ordered, bonded to protect it. And Hidon thinks that this vampire has stolen her sister, hurt her in some way, maybe even killed her. And she's also falling in love with this vampire, obviously, but it's very much like a very toxic enemies to kind of lovers situation. I really liked this. I think it was very fun. But if you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the quips, the kind of fun, campy moments, the school setting, while still having a variety of magical creatures in it, then I would suggest either Zodiac Academy if you don't mind terrible writing and are just there for a good time. This is about two twins from the human realm who get taken to the Fae realm and find out that they're princesses, but they're kind of just there for the money. There is a lot of different magic systems going on in this book. It's 9 books long. It's probably too long. I am recommending it in this instance. Another book with better writing that is out in April is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. I am almost done with this, and it's so good. The writing is a lot better than the Zodiac Academy, but it's kind of the same aspect. Our main character is a little bit older, but I think she's written young. Like, she's 34, but if you didn't tell me her age, I would assume that she's like late teens, early 20s. We're following Nima. She has to unexpectedly compete in these trials because the person in her house that was supposed to compete died. She got killed, and now she has to compete in these trials and try and win for Emperor because all the other options kind of suck. I have a lot of recommendations for Black Mirror. Black Mirror is kind of a broad topic, so I will do my best to attribute some of these to episodes. A couple short story collections that I've actually enjoyed. I'm not a big short story collection enjoyer, but these felt like an entire season of Black Mirror in just a couple hundred pages. The first one being A Friday Black by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. This is by the same author that wrote Chain Gang All-Stars, and while I think Chain Gang All-Stars was a bit stronger, I still enjoyed this short story collection. The other one is Your Utopia by Bora Chung, and I think that this is really analogous to Black Mirror in the way that at the very end of the story there's this major twist. A couple that I think match up to episodes, the first one being The Dream Hotel by Layla Lalami. I think that this matches up to that credit episode where they like exercise for credits. This is about the Dream Hotel. It's not a prison, it's a detainment center, and our main character, Sarah, gets detained at the airport after she kind of sasses back the TSA, but she is barely over the threshold in terms of points, and she gets over this threshold by having this Neuralink that she had installed, didn't read the terms and conditions, and because of that they've been able to monitor her dreams, and they think that she's a threat to her husband. Her initial stay was supposed to be 21 days, but she ends up staying for much longer, and the conditions in this detainment center are very, very poor, basically kind of tortured. A lot of their rights or privileges are taken away, and it's a very frustrating book, but I really liked it. The next book is Foe by Ian Reid. I think that it pretty much matches up one-to-one with that space episode. I'll put like the number and stuff next to them. This is about a man who goes to space, but in order for his wife to not be lonely, they put in like a double for him, and he's pretty much identical. It's a very good, it's a little bit predictable, but I still really liked it. The last book is Immaculate Conception, and this talks both about AI art and how that is detrimental to artists, and it's frustrating to prove that you own art and are having a unique concept, as well as kind of maintaining your autonomy with the evolution of medical technology. And it's not my favorite by Ling Ling Wang. I definitely like Natural Beauty better, but like it was still a 4+ star for me. And I believe this one comes out in May. You have been enjoying the slasher era of movies that we've been getting recently, the addition to the Scream franchise or X, I would definitely recommend Stephen Graham Jones. I Was a Teenage Slasher is from the point of view of a slasher becoming a slasher. My Heart is a Chainsaw. The first book, we see Jade, who is a high schooler at the time that is just obsessed with different horror movies, but her town is becoming a horror movie. And then Night of the Mannequins is about a group of teens who have a mannequin that just kind of hangs around, but then it starts killing people, and one of them takes it upon themselves to stop it. And I think Stephen Graham Jones just writes such an effective slasher. These ones are my favorites by him. I don't know if anyone else watched Skins, the UK version, like with Nicholas Hoult. I was an Effie girl, like the Effie era of it all. That specifically. But if it were a horror movie, I would recommend you Negative Space by B.R. Yeager. Be very much warned. Look up trigger warnings for this book. It is super, super bleak. But the entire time I was reading it, I was just thinking about the way that those kids treated each other with just like absolute trash and took a lot of drugs. That's what this reminded me of. Except it's set in the American South, and also the drug is supernatural. So I like this, but I think that it's hard to recommend because it is so bleak. If you enjoyed the cute dragons in How to Train Your Dragon, but also want something that talks about the culture a little bit more, I would definitely recommend Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monquo Blackgoose. This is one of my favorite dragon stories of all time. They are like angry puppies. And it also talks about the colonization of indigenous people in a way that I think is accessible to its YA audience. I really like this story. I do hope that the author chooses to continue writing them because I think it's supposed to be the first in a trilogy, but this got published a while ago and I'm very nervous that there's not going to be another book. If you enjoyed Ready or Not, seeing the rich kind of just like eat it and a badass woman just kind of taking them down, then I would definitely recommend Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. I think they're pretty one-to-one, and I was nervous about this one because I had tried a different Delilah S. Dawson, Will Only Hurt for a Moment, and I ended up DNFing it, but I liked Guillotine a lot better. I think that the horror kills start a lot sooner, and I was a lot more invested. It was a lot more action-packed. Also, this is kind of a weird one to recommend, but if you enjoy Scooby-Doo and want a trad published Scooby-Doo AU, I got you. Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero is a really interesting book. Blumhouse Books. Yeah, I believe that. This is kind of like a cosmic horror, and they're all named something different. Don't worry, Scooby is alive in this. The dog is alive, but it's after they're not teens anymore and it's years later, except Fred is dead, Shaggy is in a mental health facility, and Velma is so gay for Daphne, and Daphne doesn't know it. This is a really odd book, but if you're looking for a Scooby-Doo AU, there is one that is traditionally published. If you, like me, are constantly looking for an escape room-esque horror or something kind of similar to Cube, I have a recommendation, although it is a very cheesy recommendation. And that is The Way Up is Death by Dan Hanks. This is about a group of, I think, either 11 or 13 people that get put at the bottom of this tower that is in the sky, and they have to go up each level, and it kind of feels like a video game. It is just, the ending is really, really cheesy. I do wish it had been taken a little bit further. However, it is one of the only like escape room-esque books that I think kind of matches up to those two movies that I mentioned. So if you have a better suggestion, definitely let me know. If you are looking for a feminist version of American Psycho, I'm again going to recommend my evil girl trinity, and that is Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, Mayfly by CJ Lead, and The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. These are all unreliable narrators that end up killing people, and they're just like not great people, but I would say most of them that you can root for. You find yourself rooting for them, saying, good for you, girl. And if you're looking for more of an adult historical Sabrina the Teenage Witch, then I would recommend Slewfoot by Brom. I adore this book. I think it's super gothic, and I would totally recommend waiting to read this in the fall. I think it's the perfect fall book. I will be rereading it in the fall, and it is about a woman whose husband dies, and she kind of has to figure it out. She is not liked in her Puritan town. She is at risk of kind of being hung for the witch trials. It's the witch trial era, and she ends up making a deal with the demon and kind of, you know, it's another good for her, good for you girl story. Those are all the books that I got for you today. If you want any other types of videos, definitely give me ideas in the comments. If you made it this far, leave me a little dragon emoji, and I will see you next time. Bye.